last-minute shakeup at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning ride is okay.
And staying in front of the day isn't always as simple as 1, 2, 3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
what's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
Let NASM1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this week on the Master Instructor Roundtable. I'm Marty Miller with co-host, dear friend, fellow Master Instructor, Wendy Batts.
Hey, Marty. How are you?
I'm good, Wendy. I'm excited, as always. I always say that when we come into our, Master Instructor Roundtable. One, I just love spending time with you, hanging out, talking shop, and seeing where the conversation goes. But I am extremely excited this week because you and I are bringing in a longtime mentor of ours, and we both will absolutely say our career wouldn't be where it's at without Neal Spruce. So Neal Spruce is going to be joining us. And for those of you that don't know that name, you should know that name. So Neal is the owner and CEO of dotFIT and the former owner of the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And with his team, he's built NASM before he sold it into the undisputed leader in fitness and sports performance education. And today on our Master Instructor Roundtable, we're going to explore the latest trends in nutrition and supplementation, as well as dotFIT's latest product, Super Blend. So we'll bring in Neal now.
Hi, Neal.
Hey, everyone. Hey, guys. Thanks for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Well, thank you, as always, for joining Marty and I. Again, we love spending time with you. And Neal, especially when we talk about nutrition, we always want to rack your brain because you kind of know what's been happening from basically since you started getting into nutrition. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about how you got into developing dotFIT, where that started, and then where you are today.
Yeah, I'll try to do that quick because it's a long journey all the way. I started as a bodybuilder, in my 20s. And there was one Gold's Gym in Venice. And of course, I had to be part of that. So I created the first nutrition program ever put in a gym. And we did it in Venice, and it went out to the rest of them. And I ran that internationally for a long time as a bodybuilder. I was an athlete. I did the grand openings for their gyms. And when you're an athlete, you know how important nutrition is, right? And that's the harder part of the equation. The easier part's working out. You love to do that, but nutrition is always the harder part. So you have to get really detailed and everything else. So I put a program together and launched it around the world, and sort of the rest is history. We're certainly the biggest now anywhere because we included how do you integrate supplements with diet and all those type of things. We did that with Gold's. They gave me that first platform, and then we went on. When I retired as an athlete, I went on and formed Apex, which is one of the very biggest companies at that point, and merged that with 24-Hour Fitness, who's my partner, Mark Masteroff, which is, obviously more famous than me. He's just one of those guys you don't talk about so much. He's behind the scenes. He's the Warren Buffett, of fitness and all that. So anyway, so we merged, and we've been partners since. And then we sold 24-Hour Fitness back in the day, and nutrition was a huge part of it. I mean, we made sure that all our personal trainers used nutrition because exercise by itself, to me, was malpractice. If you were a trainer, you got to give them the other 23 hours of the day when they leave the place so they don't screw up what you just did for an hour with them. So I made sure that they all had that. And then, so that was a big part of the sale. Almost a third of the 1.7 billion came from the nutrition component that we had there. And then, then we formed dotFIT after we put that away and sold that, and we formed dotFIT, and now we're out there, and that's kind of where we are today. All the, in the NFL, NBA, MLB, we're the nutrition supplier for all that. And of course the fitness channel. Now our clubs are UFC and Crunch and all those. So that's kind of how that's where we are today. But I don't believe in exercise alone. I don't believe in nutrition alone. And I don't believe in supplements alone. When you put all three together, it's another world.
I love it.
Love that. So Neal, like I said, Wendy and I've known you for 20 some plus years now. You've been in this industry doing what you've been doing, and you've seen the trends change. But what's new in the world of nutrition? If you had to kind of, shrink that down for our listeners, where do you see the newest and where are we heading?
Yeah. Well, I think that the newest thing right now, if you look at Gen Zs, surprisingly enough, and it's a little bit surprising because, when we were that age, we really didn't pay much attention to what's going to happen to us later in our health. We were just athletes, we were just, you just work hard, in training and all this. But they're actually very in tune with their health. So there's a new awareness around nutrition. And that's made our business much bigger and easier to communicate now. When you try to communicate nutrition and the importance of it, when you're young, you just don't pay attention. You just go to McDonald's, you do whatever you want to do, you eat, and you're moving enough so that you're not overweight yet. But now you'd be surprised. Gen Z is really a kind of a different world right now. So that's the first thing is the awareness around it. And so nutrition is now something front of mind for so many of the younger generation where it wasn't probably before. So that's one big thing. The second thing is now these new weight loss drugs, the GLP drugs. I mean, that is now really put a spotlight on nutrition because basically if a doctor doesn't tell you you're going to have to supplement your protein, you're going to have to supplement your micronutrients, that is malpractice because, they lose half their weight is almost not quite half, but close to it. It could be muscle if they don't supplement. So those are the big things that are happening right now. There's a highlight on nutrition now and the importance in longevity rather than living on medications the rest of your life. And then, of course, the second would be the weight loss drugs that are gonna make a difference.
I love it. And guys, we are live. So if you have any questions for Neal Spruce, be sure to put them in the chat box. And Marty and I will ask Neal this question because he can pretty much answer anything along those lines of nutrition for sure. And we want to welcome those questions. But Neal, people that haven't heard of dotFIT, again, hopefully that's I'm hoping no one has. What's the word am I looking for? Let's take 2 steps back. dotFIT, this company is amazing. And being an NASM certified personal trainer, being part of our NASM family, obviously you guys have welcomed us. You give us a huge discount. But can you tell our listeners that maybe are new to dotFIT? How about that? That's what I was going to say. Okay. People that are new to dotFIT, can you tell them a little bit about the process that you go through when creating a supplement or a powder? Because it's not just like going to a GNC and picking something off the shelf. You guys go through such an important process that I think it's important for our listeners to know about.
Well, especially because our listeners are practitioners, I'm assuming, right. Most of them, right? We're not going into someone's household here generally, but that's what it is. I chose the practitioner channel. I don't believe that any Mr. and Mrs. Jones anywhere has the qualifications to go into a supplement store and decide what they're going to get. They don't know the proper dosage and forms of that. They only know the name of the product. Oh, it's a multivitamin. Well, how do you know that B6 or that vitamin K that should have K1 and K2? Or how many know that zinc that should be this form or that form? How do you know that? They don't. They're just buying a multivitamin. So I've never, and they don't have time to learn that. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying the consumer channel is fraught with problems. And when you sell products in the consumer channel, whether it be Costco, whether it be on the internet anywhere, whether it be any place, you have to compete on price. Let's don't blame the stores. It's not GNC's fault. It's not Amazon, who's been sued 1 million times for phony products. It's not their fault. They're just clearinghouses for stuff. Okay, and a consumer doesn't know what they're buying. And then when you check the labels and you do a third-party test on it, you find out it's not what it says it is, or the dosage are too low to make a difference. But Mr. and Mrs. Jones doesn't know the dosage of lutein or zeaxanthine or lycopene that it should be in there, or the right doses of the vitamins and minerals. So that's the problem there. So what we solved that going through a practitioner only. So what we do is everything that we do, the first thing we have to do is make sure that it's evidence-based, the product. Identify the problem, create the solution. Okay. And so that's really what it's about when you do it properly, is that you're looking at the proper dosage and forms, clinical trials that prove that's the proper dosage and form. Now, it's one thing to say it's third-party tested. You can third-party test anything. It doesn't mean it works. It just means that the label's accurate. The dosage and forms could be anything. Could be enough for a small mouse, let alone a human being, let's just say. So you can third party, yeah, it's accurate, it's third party tested. So you can't just go that. You also have to have the background on the ingredients, that they have the right dosage and form that were a positive result. So for us, it is a very 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 step process. What's the problem we're trying to solve with the supplement? What is the research around the ingredients that we're going to use to fill those gaps or to improve performance or weight loss or any of these things? What are they and what are the right dosages? And then create that document, submit that to our board, and then they say, okay, it's blessed. And then third party test it to make sure that the manufacturer didn't screw up and got everything right. And then you can put it on. And then we sell it through you. Sell it through practitioners, because it's very difficult to sell to a consumer a supplement unless they've gone through some sort of an explanation of why they might be paying $1 more than they're paying for something on Costco. So it takes a practitioner. That's why I chose that channel, because I am trying to save the world through fitness. And I'm not going to do it in a Costco or somewhere else. So, and they call us every day. Amazon calls every day. Can we put your products out there? We can't. No, you can't. Because you can't have that conversation. So anyway, so that's what we go through. So it has to be evidence-based. And by the way, there's things that we make that we have to understand our channel, or your distribution channel. There's a lot of things out there that we don't make that make sense for some people to use, but then it becomes almost medicinal because you're taking like everybody's buying magnesium today. Oh, I don't sleep well. I'm depressed. I take magnesium, because they're looking at influencers that know nothing about nutrition, selling nutrition to people that know nothing about nutrition. Okay. So, for me, I gotta debunk that stuff for all these people, so, now you're looking at individual products for specialty things, and that's different, but that does work for certain populations. So you got to get a little bit of, if I could just get people to not, try to diagnose themselves and then go look at some influencer, my world would be a lot easier. Anyway, that's what we go through.
Now, you explained it beautifully, Neal. And, for everyone that's joining us on today's podcast, Marty Miller here with Wendy Batts, great guest, Neal Spruce, CEO of dotFIT. We're talking about understanding the new space and nutrition world. Is if you're here, the evidence-based approach NASM takes. Well, Neal founded NASM as you know it today, and had that mindset with Dr. Mike Clark with the OPT training model. The same scientific validity goes into the supplementation. So Neal, thank you for explaining that. And you made me laugh. I remember a story when I brought my first supplement home back, the Weider protein pills. They smelled horrific in the late 80s. My mom wanted to throw them out because supplements back then were like, foreign, right? So the industry's come a long way, like you've said. So I'm glad we don't have to hide them in our gym bag anymore. But my question to you is, how does someone know if a supplement's good for them, or if it's even what it says it is? That you kind of alluded to, but can you go a little bit deeper so that the saying you say all the time, what's on the bottle is in the bottle?
Yeah. So two things there. I think we covered a little bit of it right there. First of all, what is it that you're looking for? What is the goal that you're trying to accomplish? First, every human being, I don't care who you are. And by the way, not just human beings, my dogs. My dogs take as many supplements as I do, by the way. And my horses too. And my horses. And my turtles. So bottom line is, everyone, what is your goal? Well, I'm trying to live a longer, more productive life. I want to be independent my entire life. If that's your goal, great. I want to lose body fat. I want to gain muscle. I want to improve performance. Okay. So you got to decide what is it. And then what is your budget? I mean, what is most important? Well, I would argue that for everybody, the most important thing is just maintaining your health. And then if it all works out, there's some other things you can choose to accelerate your body fat reduction, if that's your goal. Accelerate your performance curve going up, if that's your goal. But the baseline of what every human being needs is to be able to fill in all their nutritional gaps, which obviously you have from diet alone. And again, I'll sit here in front of 1,000 dietitians in a lecture or anything else, and I'll just say, anybody that thinks they're going to get all the nutrients that their body can actually use to build a stronger structure and everything else every day from the foods they choose to eat, anybody that thinks that is one of two things: arrogant or naive. That is never going to happen. It has never happened, and it won't. So the first thing to do is fill the gaps. Give your body every one of those building materials. Your trillions of cells are replacing themselves all the time, and they need the ingredients to do it. They need the micronutrients to get that done. They're the spark plugs to those trillions of cells, and they make everything happen. And if you don't have enough of them, they just sputter. When you rebuild them, they're just not as good, and then you age early. That's what's happening. So that's what you want to do. So the first thing is everybody needs to cover their baseline. Get your 1 gram per pound of lean body mass of protein. Take a complete multivitamin mineral that actually has the 20 potential known under-consumed nutrients. You have that. It's cheap. It costs something 30 cents a day. And that's about it. And then omega-3s, because people just don't eat fish anymore. It's just one of those things. And then there's your baseline. Just make sure you cover all that and do it calorically efficient. It's like I can go, okay, can you design a diet for me so I get all the recommended dietary allowances of all the nutrients and all the protein I need? Yeah, it's about 30,000 calories. And I still don't know, because it depends on on the vegetables and everything else I'm getting, where it was grown. It was actually the nutrients in the soil, and it got there. I don't know how you cook it. So obviously, that's and I don't think that'll work, 30,000 calories for people. So calorically efficiency is what you're trying to do at the same time with that. So just filling your gaps. Everybody needs to do that. That's what they need to do. That's the starting place. And then after that, there's other supplements that can get you faster to your goal. We know creatine works for performance, muscle gain, and we know there's some other things, whether it be caffeine or herbal things, that we can actually get you a little faster to your body fat reduction goal. But I don't want you to stay on those things I'm creatine forever, because that's actually like a multivitamin these days, and we can talk more about that later. But if your goal is fat loss and you're using a supplement to accelerate that, which there are some that can, I want you off that once you get to your goal. You don't need it. You're just taking your baseline stuff on a regular basis.
Awesome. Well, Neal, there's a great question that came in from one of our listeners. But before I ask you that question, I'm going to do a little bit of business. And I wanted to tell everyone that this episode of the Master Instructor Roundtable is brought to you by NASM One, the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources. Get the Edge app to schedule and program clients, enjoy half off all certifications and specializations, access free CEUs, and more. All of this for just $35 a month. Just go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM One. So Neal, the question that came in, I think this is a fantastic question, and it kind of hits on what you were talking about when you had mentioned the GLP-1s. So the question is, how is the use of GLPs integrated into the training routine? Is it even recommended to suggest the use of these to clients? I understand that it varies by clients, but what is the leaner approach?
Okay. It is the last thing you would recommend to a client, unless, and here's your metrics as far as I'm concerned. One is you have to have lost weight and gained it back 3 times doing 3 different things that you tried, which would be a diet and exercise. Diet and exercise are always first. No one's going to go, okay, I'm a little overweight, let's go take a drug. That's what's wrong with the world today. And that's what's happening, by the way, with a lot of these things, because these things work, there's no question, but unfortunately, you're losing everything. You're losing your infrastructure, you're losing muscle on the drug and all that. Everything's kind of messed up. They work for losing weight, but you just become a smaller version of your former self, or what I used to call skinny fat. So you got to be very careful about that. So when is the time come when you would choose that? So if you're a trainer, I want to answer the trainer here. First of all, make sure you're not recommending it unless, and here's where you can recommend it. And when I do, okay, is when you've already done a 2 or 3 rolls in a row, trying exercise, anything else, because now this is something that has a higher percentage of working for you to cut your appetite. Everything is about appetite cutting. You can go back and see an old VHS of me doing a lecture in my 20s. And I said, whoever discovers how to control the human appetite wins this game. Because that's when everybody started gaining weight in the 60s and 70s, where the curve just went like this for obesity and overweight because of the foods that we have around us, the environment. We don't move anymore. We have to hurry up and sit somewhere else. All these kind of things. So that's when it happened. And so I said, whoever controls appetite, because that's the key. And this drug does a really good job with that. But unfortunately, there's some, the side effects. So we can offset those side effects. So yes, don't recommend it until they've done a couple of things before. And then after that, it can help these people. The bigger part for this, Wendy, is and the person here asking the question, is that it can get people into the gym that have never been in the gym before. People, the old saying, I got to get in shape before I go to the gym. I always hated that saying, but that's the old saying. Well, okay, this can help people at least feel more comfortable coming into a gym. Because if you do not exercise and you're on this drug, you're screwed. For sure.
Can you say that one more time? Like in bold letters, scream it to the world.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't exercise, you're screwed. And that's because exercise tells the body that muscle is more valuable than fat. But if you don't give it the micronutrients to make that happen, that combination makes it work. You can't just say, okay, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to work out. You're still going to lose a ton of muscle. You got to fill those gaps with no calories and all the things that you need to make all that work. But without a doubt, if you don't exercise, you are definitely screwed.
Great explanation as always, Neal. So I'm going to pivot a little bit, and I think it's going to go into some of the GLP-1. You've touched on it about how everybody, no matter how many calories you're eating, are not getting their micronutrients. And I have been using this product now since it came out. But can you share with us the science behind one of the latest products from dotFIT, Super Blend? Yeah.
So the Super Blend is as it says on it. It is pretty much all in one. When I create a program, and I know you guys know, obviously, because you've sent a lot of these celebrities to me. I work with so many celebrities. You name every top CEO pretty much in the world, and you name any, some of your top athletes or anything else. I do all their nutrition programming for them. And the Super Blend just solves a huge problem. You can put everything in that. So you got all of your antioxidants, you got your vitamins and minerals, you got your prebiotics, your probiotics. Then we add like ashwagandha for sleep and comfort, adaptogens. And you've got all of these things in there. But the hard part on that, it took us 3 years to figure this product out. All natural, it satisfies any diet, vegan or not. It's all plant, all natural, all that kind of stuff. So you have to mask all this stuff that's in there. And no one has ever put everything in one product. No one in the planet has ever done that, because no one's dumb and like I am when it comes to we can do it. I just challenged the manufacturer. I took 15 to find somebody. We can do it. And then you got to mask the taste of all that stuff naturally. Artificially, you can mask anything, but I got to do it naturally all the way around. So the science behind, and here's the bigger part. And I hate throwing other products under the bus, but the problem, everybody's buying these greens products right now. Mm-hmm. And especially the big one, what's it called? Athletic Greens or AG1, what do they call it? Well, there's no greens in that. I mean, it's like, there's basically no fiber and plus it's, here's the thing I want everyone on this call to remember this. If you see ingredients without the exact number of how much of that ingredient is in the product, that is a non-starter. You do not buy that product. They're hiding something. And don't let them tell you, it's proprietary. I don't want to tell anybody because I'll copy it. Anybody can copy anything. We can reverse engineer anything. Bullshit. That means that there's not enough of any of those things that are in there that's going to make a difference in your life. So anyway, that's the big part. And of course, with ours, it's different. I have to document every single little thing. Here's the dosage, here's the form, and here's how much you need of this. And to put that in there along with a mushroom blend, turmeric, and we had to also, it took forever to come out with it. So yeah, it is. And it's of course, it's taken off like crazy because the problem is when people take products like that, I'm not talking about Super Blend now, I'm talking about any of these other ones, they're not going to know if it's really working. They think it is because they bought it because it's a health product. It's not like taking caffeine or creatine when that's an acute response you're going to have the next day. But it's like you don't know it. And so here you are taking it for all these years, and you're not going to get the benefit because it's underformulated. Underformulated because they're not transparent about the amounts of ingredients in there. So that's it. So we had to solve that. In our world, we had to solve it. And of course, evidence-based forms and dosages of everything that's in there. And we put a lot in there. You're never going to find anything that has all-in-one like that. It really is an all-in-one. So anyway, that's the science behind it. And that's, of course, we have a whole practitioner dietary supplement reference guide because people like you guys are practitioners. You have to have the true science and the peer review. And of course, no one else does that for in the supplement world. So there you go.
So there you go. Well, Neal, my question that I have, and one that I get very often, again, when I'm unsure, you and Nick and Kat are the three people that I call, like, I need your help because I need your help. So for individuals that are thinking about their children, and of course, you know, the youth these days, super busy, not sleeping as much, a lot of different sports, homework is crazy. When do you feel like the proper age for supplementation should happen? And is there something specifically that someone should avoid if their kid is still like under the high school or under 18? Let me put it that way.
It's when they're in the womb. When the baby's in the womb, before you conceive, the mom is taking supplementation. Her doc has her on a prenatal, which is a multivitamin mineral and an omega-3 now. And if they don't, then change your doc, get a different one. Okay. So that's what they have them taking now is the prenatal. And I mentioned this earlier, the prenatal when that became mandatory by the AMA, the American Pediatrics Association, American Dietetics, it was mandatory to make that prescription for the conceiving mom or the one that was going to conceive. It wiped out over 35% of all major birth defects and 50% of stillborn births. So that's when you start supplementing the kid in the womb. Okay, now, when they get out, you're still breastfeeding and you're still taking your supplement. So it's going right to the kid. And then you go to a baby formula. Guess what that is? It's a supplement. Because we know you're not going to feed them properly, and we know they're not going to get what they need. The most important time in your life is pre-puberty to do all the proper things. But you don't need any more than that. All they need, once they finish the bottle, once they finish the baby formula, as soon as they have teeth, you can put them on a good chewable for a multi, and that's it. There's not, and probably if you're not feeding them fish, and they're probably not eating fish, an omega-3, and you can just snap that into an orange juice. That's just a little thing. You put it into an orange juice, and they're going to be good to go. And that's pretty much all you need going all the way up through puberty, making sure they get a gram per pound of lean body mass of protein. I don't worry too much about that. Most kids will get enough. So those are the only real. But now here's the caveat to that. And here's where it gets very tricky for parents. I'll never forget. I was doing a lecture about youth nutrition one day, and you guys know that both my boys ended up being professional athletes. So and not that I was trying to do that. They just end up, one makes the NFL, the other was professional fighter. So it was a very violent family that we grew up in. But they had all they needed. But the trick to this, I was doing a lecture on youth nutrition, and someone just walked out of the room, and later on, I said, so how come you left? He goes, I don't want to give my kid supplements. And I go, so you mean your wife never gave your kid a supplement? And he goes, no, of course not. And I go, was she pregnant? Did she take a prenatal? Well, yeah, of course. Okay, so we got into this guy. It just kept going and going and going. And he goes, okay, I get it. And then, but the problem is this: you can't build more bone after about age 25 or 30. That's when your bone peaks. So if you don't have enough calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K and magnesium during that period of your life, you're not going to build much bone. And of course, you're going to get osteoporosis like 75% of the people over 70 years old have because they didn't get enough of that stuff. And that's what we call silent hunger. You never heard that coming until it was too late. You hear it when you're out of calories in your gut and you have enough your macronutrients, your protein, fats, you get growling and you got to eat. You can't hear, hey, you need more calcium and magnesium and vitamin K because you haven't had enough for the last 10 years and you're going to get dementia now and you're going to have broken bones when you're old. You can't hear that. It's a silent hunger. So your kids, from the very beginning of time, you just fill those gaps. And it's real simple with a kid. They don't take any of the stuff out there. You just got to take a multivitamin, fill those gaps, make sure they get the omega-3s. They're not eating fish, so throw that in there. And the gram per pound of protein, I'm not worried about. They'll probably get that, right? But if they're an athlete, then I always, again, I usually stick them with like the first string protein. And that's it. That's all you need. It's that simple. And calcium, I want them to get their calcium from food, but if they don't, they need 1,000 milligrams a day. So just take a tablet, break it up, and throw it in their orange juice or something. Whatever you got to do, to make that happen. Just because that is going to be the most important thing, for them. So they have this great chance of staying active the rest of life. And by the way, people that don't get enough calcium and vitamin D growing up, when they don't get enough, they fracture 8 times more than kids that do. Now you're not going to play ball anymore. So there you go.
It makes so much sense to us in the industry. This goes back to when, even on the strength and conditioning, performance side, well, you can't let a 13-year-old lift weights. I'm like, well, they're jumping out of trees and they're picking up their 85-pound brother. What, you know what I mean? You're telling me I can't give them a band or a 5-pound dumbbell. So sometimes simplifying it, bringing it back to the basics, then allows people to understand.
Perfect.
I guess I'll say the silliness in their thought process. But again, that they're not experts. But this is why I love the fact that you go after practitioners, arm us with the right information, because we're your army to go out and fight that battle.
That's
so
right.
Awesome.
Great
stuff.
analogy by that. Great analogy. Because I fight that battle, and I'm not the expert. So everybody on this call, anybody watching this should know. I don't know. The only thing I know about exercise is lifting heavy shit. As a bodybuilder, when I was a giant at 270, but these guys are experts. I love that analogy there, because I get asked all the time, well, you shouldn't let your kids work out, right? I go, no, they're going to be better if they work out, as long as they're supervised properly.
Yeah, they run around a soccer field for a mile, but I can't put them on a treadmill. But I digress. So, Neal, I'm a big Superblend fan. I love it. But what I would love for you to do is, can you also tell the people, like the good, better, best, if someone's looking for the best, what other supplements could they or should they look at taking, even if they're using the Superblend?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think one of the things I talk about is caloric efficiency. So, I mean, if you want to maintain a certain body composition where your body fat is, whatever digits you want it to be, then I always tell you, because it's to get the amount of protein, the older you get, the more protein you need, because we become what we call anabolic resistant. In other words, exercise doesn't build muscle like it did when we were younger. And you've got to overcome that with 2 times more protein. My boys that are twice my size now, and of course I was much more, they need less protein than I need. And I'm still shrinking. In fact, my family calls me the incredible shrinking man. And of course, my wife says I'm half the man she married, because I am. But maintaining it takes way more protein for me all the way around. So, I mean, you just got to make sure you're getting enough protein. So, and again, the Superblend purposely doesn't have any protein, because I want you to pick your own. Are you a vegan? Then pick a vegan protein. Are you you want whey because for whatever reason you're going to pick a whey? You're picking all natural, whatever protein. So that's why it's purposely there's no protein in there, so you can add your own. Otherwise, you would scare. There's people that just, well, I can't take it because it's an animal protein. I can't take it because it's a vegan protein. So that's the reason. So that's it. Just the protein, number one. Make sure you get that 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, and then it goes to other things. There's some collagen peptides out now that are really very effective at getting to what we call the target tissues, getting to the joints, creating a little more collagen, helping with your skin, and also helping with the joints. And so those are things, as long as it fits into your budget. But listen, if your budget is a certain amount, you just got to get your baseline stuff down, get the right amount of protein, and fill your gaps with your vitamins and minerals or the Superblend. Okay, because it's got all that and more. And then you got probiotics on top of that if you're going to take something separate. But the probiotics are in the Superblend. But if you're taking a Superblend, you really don't need much else other than your protein. And then you can add joint, skin, collagen, a supplement like that, because that wouldn't be in there. And if you need extra calcium for any reason, you can do that. Well, we're talking about the health side. If you want to go to the performance side and weight loss, that's different, because those are completely separate. But so those are basically the thing. And then brain health. You talk about once you get into age 45. So for all the listeners out here, you need to separate you need to separate that conversation between protecting your brain and what people talk about is mental health. Mental health is when you started getting into weird moods, depression and all that, which is a big conversation today. Let's talk about let's know that. But what we want to do is protect the brain before any of that happens or whatever. So that's what we do with your multivitamins, all the B12 you're getting naturally from that, or the Superblend, it's got all that in there. But when the average person gets to be 45 years old, we no longer can produce the things that our brain uses to make the synapses fire properly, or our neurons, all the membranes and everything else proper, which is acetylcarnitine, phosphatidylserine. These are the ingredients. So we put that in a brain health formula that we start everybody out at age 45 on that, because they don't need it before that. The body just can't make that stuff anymore very well, and it's got a high B12. Now they have enough here to help maintain that, to help stave off any potential dementia that might be coming in your life. But in the meantime, everything else is working well enough with that. So those are the things that you would take.
That and my fish oil, my omegas, those are my choices after my
Superblend. Omegas, yeah. Yep.
Well, Neal, I have a question, and I had asked someone on a previous podcast that we did, so I would be very interested to see the relation to how they answered the question and you would. But I'm going to ask you a question about creatine. And I try to get all of my clients to start taking it, especially once I started reading, as you were talking about brain health, that creatine is actually a good thing for your brain. And so I've had clients now come back and say, Wendy, since I started to supplement creatine in my diet or add it to whatever it is, I feel really puffy. And then other people feel like they're leaning out. And so there's a big difference sometimes in the way the body reacts with creatine. So do you know why that happens?
Yeah. So there are people that, here's what's happening. There really isn't a water retention on the outside of the muscle. It's intracellular. What's happening is your muscle is getting larger, and creatine brings water into the muscle cell, which is exactly what you want. Mm-hmm. You want because that tells the muscle cell, build more protein, keep protein. We put every single person over age 45 on creatine, just like a multi. Mm-hmm. It helps them from keeping, whether they work out or not. The doctors are actually prescribing it. So if they feel the bloating, all they're feeling is the intracellular water getting bigger because the fiber's getting bigger. And if you do the math, they did a great study on that too. You do the math on the increase on the intracellular water, it's equal to the increase in the fiber size. And they're just not used to it because it happens very quickly. Creatine is like one of those if they discovered it today, it'd be a drug, even though it's completely natural and not just safe, it's actually healthy. But they would do that because they want to get the patent and make all the money. Big pharma would own it. It works that well. And that goes back to with the brain too. I mean, it is now used for depression. I'm not saying it, we don't know the big picture, but they're testing it in Parkinson's, they're testing it in every sort of neural degenerative diseases. And we definitely, if they've been testing it for 10, 15 years, it means something's happening. Because don't forget, creatine, for those listeners out there don't know, that's their first energy source. First 10, 15 seconds. So a burst of anything, same in the brain. Any place there's energy, there's creatine as the first energy source. So when you have to make multiple decisions very quickly, creatine can make a difference. And if you have low creatine, whether biosynthesis or whether it be genetic or your diet, you're a vegan, you get none from the diet then, okay? Then what happens, you have low creatine in the brain, you have a higher propensity to maybe depression or mood problems and things like this. And we've already seen an effective when you get the creatine levels up in those particular people. So anyway, yeah, creatine is a whole nother world, but don't the water retention, ignore it. Try to, because it's only going to make you better because you will, by the way, every study will confirm that you actually get leaner if you're measuring your body fat using creatine. Unless someone's, pigging out on something. Of course.
Love it. That's the other thing I throw into my super blend in the morning. So it's like, I just got it all. I'm the good news, not shockingly, because you guided me. I'm good so far with my program. Yeah. So Neal, I could talk to you for hours, which I have in the past. This stuff excites me. So selfishly, I'm going to limit myself right here and ask you one more question. And this is one that I'm fascinated with because of the energy drinks, all the nonsense that people are putting into their body. I'm a huge coffee fan. I know that you got to be careful how you make your coffee with all the creams and sugars, but just the coffee alone, I love. So how much caffeine is good and what's your thoughts on coffee?
Okay. Well, first of all, from a performance standpoint, from any exercise standpoint, whatever you're trying to do, you're trying to lose body fat, you're trying to be a greater performance, any modality, without a doubt, caffeine has a positive effect on that. That's a done deal. Bottom line is, if you look at all the studies, caffeinated coffee, because decaf does not have the same benefits. Caffeinated coffee, it's generally that if you had to look at all of them, and I've looked, and I get every new one before they're published, by the way, because I'm living that little secret society of getting things before they're published. So there you will see it's 3 cups a day of a coffee that has about 100 milligrams of caffeine, or it could be tea, which would be maybe 2 cups of that tea to get 100 milligrams. But that's about what it. Now again, it's not about, you don't have to have that much caffeine, but you remember you're getting all these polyphenols, which are the natural, antioxidants that are in the coffee bean. So depending if you really go through a filtering process, the coffee, it depends, sometimes if it's over filtered, you're not going to get maybe the same benefits. But the bottom line is, without a doubt, is that coffee drinkers that drink about 3 cups a day of about 100 milligrams per cup of caffeine live longer, they're leaner, they have less chance of dementia, less chance of diabetes, all that. Now, again, these are associations. You got to remember, maybe it's people like you and me that drink coffee that also do good things. Mm-hmm. However, they tease a lot of that out. And so at the end of the day, it really is right around there. That's about the number. Now, I've seen studies up to 6 coffees a day being more positive now, and that's just up in because people up in the Scandinavian countries drink about that much. It's kind of a regular beverage for them, and they just, of course, they live way longer than we do, and they also have better health and are leaner and all these. But that's an association. I don't want anybody watching this to say I'm not giving you a causal effect. I'm giving you an association. But let's face it, there is no downside, and that's not a reason to drink it. If you don't like it, everybody's got adverse reactions to something. If you had adverse reaction to caffeine, don't drink it. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. It's not a reason to start drinking it. It just makes us all happy when we have 3 or 4 cups a day that we feel like we're doing a good thing.
You made my day, Neal. I'm 2 cups minimum. In 3, I start to feel guilty. So now I'm not going to feel guilty.
There you go. Go.
Well, Neal, you just made my day because I drink coffee all morning until noon, and then I shut it down so that way I can actually sleep. But I mean, I may go 5-6 cups of coffee depending on how early I get up. So
yeah, and the half-life, by the way, the half-life of caffeine in your body, depending if you're what we call a fast metabolizer or a slow metabolizer of caffeine, and we have a gene we can identify that tells us who you are, it can be 2.5 to 4.5 hours. But if you go a 4-hour break in between, that's kind of a good number all the way around. I have my last cup. I'll have it in an hour and a half, 2 o'clock. I have my last cup.
I love it.
But it also, because I got a pretty busy afternoon, so it's good.
Well, Neal,
caffeine works so well on the brain. People talk about, well, they feel good. It is all about focus. I mean, that's what it is. It's a methylxanthine, so it's shaped just like an adenosine molecule. And if what it does, it fills the adenosine receptor that would normally quiet you down. It fills it up so they can't get in there. So boom, you can stay up a little bit. You can focus a little harder.
Love it.
I love it. Well, Neal, we have had so many positive comments on the side of everyone thanking us for having you on. We just appreciate you volunteering your time and being on, of course, with Marty and I, as well as our listeners. But my final question is, what are your takeaways? If you wanted to leave our audience with something before we hop off, what would you like to leave behind?
Here's what I want you to leave behind. I think we covered a lot of it in this whole thing. I want you to start thinking about doing the right thing. Don't think big pharma first. Think filling your gaps and giving your body. The root cause to everything good and bad in your life is nutrition. That's the root cause. That's the root cause for everything good and bad, because the human body doesn't exist without nutrition. Bad nutrition is really a bad body. That's your brain. That's everything. Start there. Start there and do it from day one, just like you did the prenatal. And just keep that going. Fill your gaps and give your body a chance so you don't have to succumb to big pharma. That's really, if I had to leave everybody with that, and it's so simple, it's inexpensive. That's what you need to do.
Neal, that's great advice, right? Food is either medicine or poison, one way or the other to look at it, right?
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. Neal, we can't thank you enough. And for all of you that are joining, please, if you have never tried the dotFIT products, being an NASM member, you go to your pro discount page. Neal is incredibly generous to all of us. You get a fabulous discount. They have great education on their website. So I can't encourage you enough to think about this side of your business and your own family's health. So Neal, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure we're going to get a lot of requests to have you back in the near future.
Well, I can't wait. And of course, I'll always be there. All you got to do is have Wendy ask me, and I'm going to be there. You know that.
I love you, Neal. Thank you.
Love you.
Thanks, Neal. Wendy, we are so spoiled to have Neal in our back pocket because I've asked him so many questions on my family and friends, very intricate health. And within days, they see this magical difference. It's proven that if you have sound advice from leaders in the field with a product that is what it says it is, you're going to see a dramatic change in the outcomes you're looking for, whether it's working on some nutritional deficiency or performance, aging, etc. So now this was a wonderful, wonderful podcast today.
Yes, no, I'm excited. I always love to have him on. And Marty, you know, we've been blessed to have him on our ATP when we did the live Instagrams for NASM Performance. So as always, you know, just thanks for coming up with some questions too. I think this was good.
Yeah, and for all of you that normally join us, you guys know how to get a hold of us. It's very easy. It's our first last name at nasm.org. If you have any questions you want to send us, keep that feedback coming. That's why we put this together for all of you. And we want to hear what you want us to talk about. So thank you so much for joining us this week. And of course, we look forward to seeing you next week on the Master Instructor Roundtable.